Up next on Way of the Renaissance Man, bringing excitement and passion to the dismal science with Professor Sean Flynn.
Welcome to the Way of the Renaissance Man podcast. This is a show about ideas, personal empowerment, and celebrating the rational life. Our goal is to help each other discover the tools needed to better focus our minds, integrate our thoughts with actions, and live the lives we really want. I'm your host, Jim Woods.
When asked to think about the prototype professor of economics, most people are likely to conjure up the image of a staid gentleman in a bow tie who's buried in statistics. Well, those people haven't met Sean Flynn. In this episode, Jim has a fascinating, fun, and humorous discussion with the eminently vibrant Scripps College economics professor. Sean is the author of the best-selling book Economics for Dummies, and he's the co-author of the world's best-selling economics textbook. Topics covered in this discussion include Sean's personal history as an economist, how he was chosen to write Economics for Dummies, he and Jim's mutual love of martial arts, and his groundbreaking work in the field of free market healthcare reform. Plus, you'll learn all about Sean's new book, which advocates for enhanced price transparency in healthcare, consistent pricing for every consumer, an insurance system designed so that individuals can actually pay their deductibles, and real competition among healthcare providers. After listening to this episode, we suspect you'll have a much different view of an economics professor. And now, here's Jim's conversation with Sean Flynn.
So I'm here at Freedom Fest 2019, and we've had a lot of shows from Freedom Fest here. But I'm really excited about this one because this is just a gentleman I met just a day or so ago. His name is Sean Flynn, and he's an economist extraordinaire and a professor of economics. And you're one of those guys who brings excitement and life to the dismal science, as they say.
Well, it's like Frankenstein. You just got to shock him hard enough.
Yeah.
He'll rear up and he'll make your life interesting.
Exactly. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for being on.
Okay, yeah. So tell me something. A friend of ours said, "Oh, you got to meet Sean. You just have to meet Sean. You guys are going to hit it off, right?" And when people tell me that, they're either 100% right or they're 100% wrong. Mm-hmm. In this case, they were 100% right.
Okay? Yes.
So we had a lot of things in common. We actually live in the near the same area. So tell me about your professional focus, how you got there, and what you're working on now. Why what your fight for freedom and my fight.
Sure.
And we'll talk about all that stuff. So.
Okay, well, don't want to be long-winded here, but I think the best way to start is to go back to about sophomore year in college.
Perfect.
I was at USC. I'd taken a lot of classes. They have a GE curriculum. You take a lot of different things.
Right.
And I was thinking about, should I go into the hard sciences or the social sciences, right? And to me, the social sciences had the bigger problems, right? We don't know a cure for cancer yet. That's a purely technical problem. We'll get there eventually, right? We'll put someone on Mars soon, right? But we barely know how to attack poverty, war, discrimination. So these I thought were and they're all human caused problems, right?
And they're the problems that have been attacked time and time again throughout cultures, and we haven't got it right.
Still haven't gotten it right.
No, that I understand. Yeah. So
that was sort of the basic thing, and then economics to me was the social science that was the most like a science, right? You try and make testable predictions. You go out empirically. You try and see if the data matches up with your predictions.
Right.
And if it doesn't, economists are better than any other social sciences at calling BS on themselves and saying, yeah, that didn't work. We got to start again, right? And then, not that we've gotten that far in certain parts. Like macroeconomics is still a disaster in terms of the theory and predictions and stuff.
Right.
But I'm a behavioral economist, to answer one of your earlier questions, and there's a lot of stuff we now know is very predictable about individual human behavior and even corporate behavior, right? So there's good stuff there, but unfortunately it's not the stuff that's typically in the news, because I hate when people walk up to me and ask, is the Fed going to raise interest rates? I don't know, buddy. Well, if I did, I wouldn't tell you, man.
That's more along my end of professional focus, because I have to try to game with. I had to learn how to speak Fed from the Greenspan days,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, but the reason why is because it affects our money and our markets, and I'm in the business of making sure people got their money in the right areas. Which, of course, now it's all about I've been writing about this Fed put and this dovish posture for so long. And I wish I didn't have to. I wish I could just
Well, it's surprising people are disagreeing with you, right? I mean, because I'm totally on your side with the Fed put and everything.
No,
right?
I mean, well, some people will disagree, but there's no, I mean, if you just look at the bond market, you can, that tells you everything you need to know about where rates are going.
Yes.
So.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Negative interest rates. They're getting epic all over the world.
Negative interest rates are all over Europe.
Yeah.
Okay. I told my subscribers recently there was 14 different high yield bonds in Europe paying negative interest rates. And high yield bonds, debt junk.
Nice.
You pay them to own debt.
Nice.
Now, that is not, there's no way that's sustainable. Yeah. Exactly.
And for anyone that's not clear, they should know that like the higher grade bonds in Europe, like Nestle, really good companies, they went negative a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. So now everything, including the junk, is negative.
Yeah, when your premium bonds, at least in the case of Nestle, a premium bond, okay, you know the company's going to make good on that loan, and so you maybe will kind of sacrifice a little bit of yield, but I still wouldn't loan them money without having to pay for it.
Sure.
So, but let's get back to you.
Okay, sure.
So, because you're more interested in the Fed.
Oh, maybe. I hope so.
So then you're undergrad USC. By the way, I'm undergrad UCLA.
Oh, it's all right.
So
we'll still be friends.
Exactly. We don't have that in common. Well, maybe we do. But. So what did you decide to do? Where did you go to graduate school?
I ended up going grad school. You applied a lot of places. Berkeley gave me the most money, as it turns out, and it was a good program. So PhD at Berkeley. And as it turned out, a lot of my professors ended up running the world. One of them was Janet Yellen, who became the Fed chief.
Right.
People don't know the name Maurice Obstfeld, but head economist at the IMF, and Christina Romer was Obama's chief during the financial crisis.
And those were all classmates of yours?
No, professors.
Professors of yours.
They were young professors at the time.
I got you.
Yeah, and so I'm now middle-aged and they're older, but they were running the world for a while. So it was very interesting seeing how these people thought 10, 15, 20 years before they were actually in a position to do what they thought was the right thing.
Right. I mean, we have a mutual friend, and Nick Vardy, if you're listening, just know that you need to be on this show soon. So,
yes.
But he's one of our brilliant friends, as we call him.
Super brilliant.
But he was in that magic class at Harvard Law School with President Obama and Judge Gorsuch, and now as I say, well, Nick, what happened? Where are you? You're not running the world, man. What's going on?
He's doing all right. I've seen where he lives in London. He's doing fine.
He's fabulously successful and a fun guy to hang out with. So.
And he married the most beautiful woman of those three guys.
That's true. Well, that's the victory in of itself.
Yeah.
You haven't done too bad in that department.
Well,
I just noticed.
I'm very fortunate.
Yes, you are. Okay, so tell me. So how did you go from grad student at Berkeley to writing books like Economics for Dummies? And I want you to tell me about some of your other books that you have.
Okay, so part of it was when you're a grad student, there's only two ways to support yourself. You can either be a research assistant for a professor. They count it as 20 hours a week. They give you free healthcare and pay your tuition. Or you can be a teaching assistant, and then you help teach the undergrads. Right. I was always a teaching assistant, either for the stats department or econ. And because of that, I piled up just insane amounts of ability to explain stuff really simply to undergrads, which most professors don't bother with because they're going to become researchers.
Yeah, they let you do it.
Yeah, and so I got my first teaching job after my PhD at Vassar College, Poughkeepsie, New York.
Yes, good college.
Beginning of my second year there, one of my best students came up and she's like, hey, I want you to get me a job. And I thought she meant on Wall Street because I was teaching finance and we're close to New York City. Right. Turned out she wanted a job in publishing. And I'm like, why don't you ask your English professors? Because she was a double major in English and economics, and she's
Right.
like, oh, they're all failed novelists. They hate the publishing industry.
Their publishing industry rejects.
And so I knew one guy in publishing because I had written a martial arts book back when I was an undergrad. I used to
I didn't
teach
know you were
and
into
compete.
martial arts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's another thing we have in common.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you
yeah.
look like you're still into it. I'm getting a little soft, man.
Well, it's harder as you get older. It's harder to compete in combat sports
yeah.
or to do things. But yeah, well, we can talk about that
You must
soon.
be good though, because you don't have any obvious broken noses or.
I have 2 broken noses, but the first broken nose I got pushed it to the left,
Oh,
and
no.
the second one pushed it back in place. So, and somehow it looks like I've survived.
No, it looks fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It was fine. But yeah, so he hooked me up, and I got her a job, and then that led one thing to another. For being offered to write Economics for Dummies, and they'd tried 3 other authors, thought they were all boring, and so I ended up getting the contract. And it was only because I put in all that time teaching.
Right.
It's like the Beatles in Berlin, right? You got to get the band right.
Well, you probably had all the content for it
Yep.
already,
Yes.
and they said, "Hey, how about this?" You're like, "Well, I've taught a few dummies in my day, Although those dummies aren't dummies, of course. They're like smart kids that want to learn. But that's. I mean, so if you've ever, I'm speaking to the audience now. If you've ever read this book or if you've ever looked up the Dummy series, they're actually quite good. Usually they have the perfect person. That company's brilliant,
very selective
at picking the right person because they know what they want to do. And like with any For Dummies book, it has to be interesting.
Yep.
Otherwise people won't continue to read it.
Yeah, and
that's what you've done with your book.
Well, yeah, and let me just give them even more credit than that, because your Wiley Publishing runs a tight ship with the Dummies books, and I had great teams of editors, authors, illustrators. There were people in there to make sure if I wasn't capable, because there's a little bit of corny humor in them. If I couldn't come up with the jokes, they would.
Yes.
Right? It's like joke writers, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, they really do. And then they actually send it out to a lot of people for secret reviews to get you honest feedback. And so, the final product on those books is usually superb.
I've written, I think, 3 books for Wiley.
Oh, right.
But as a ghostwriter.
Oh, okay.
And, co-author in one of them. But I've had the same experience. They're very thorough.
Yep.
They do not let you get away with saying anything that's not fully cited.
Yep.
And for a writer, it's sometimes a pain in the butt.
It is.
Because you have to make sure you deliver. But knowing that brings the best out of you.
Oh, it does. It does.
That's what I like about working with them, because it would be easier for me to kind of just let it slide because I know what I'm talking. I know it's fine. But if they don't know, you better come correct with your game on that, or else they're not gonna be looking at it.
Yes.
And they keep a tight deadline too.
Yes. Oh my God, the deadline. Well, actually, the deadline. That's an interesting thing, because I got to take over the McConnell economics textbook, which has been the world's best-selling economics textbook since the '60s.
Yes.
But the reason I was at the head of the list when they were looking for people to become the junior author was they knew that I'd done a book for Wiley, and Wiley are taskmasters about deadlines, and textbooks have to be done on the deadline. They cannot come out late.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So it's good. It's good to have like a brutal sensei when you're doing martial arts.
Exactly.
Want the brutal sensei.
You want that, but they get the best out of you.
Yes.
So exactly.
Yes. Well, that's your job with your clients too, right?
Of course.
Lift them up.
With my newsletter businesses, I like to make sure that people have the right information so that they can make the most money and avoid the big losses. So I have several newsletters that use trend following, some that are like technical trading kind of things where we buy in breakouts and grow
heads and shoulders.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's couple with handles and all that. So that all stuff is fun technically, but the main kind of goal of it is to help people get the tools that they need to make money and to have financial freedom. And with your work, you're helping people get the tools to understand a subject that they may think is somehow not interesting, but it's one of those subjects that permeates every decision they make.
Yes. Whether they like it or not.
Exactly.
You're a fish swimming in water, whether you want to be a fish swimming in water or not. The water's there.
And to me, it's like, why would you not want to know where you're swimming?
Yep.
How could you because it affects everything you do. I mean, economics affects your relationships. It affects your choices in life and what you find, what you value, what you don't value. And to me, it only makes sense to kind of do some introspection on that And you've done that in a broader base, like with the behavioral economics. So, so what are you working on right now? I know you're a professor right now.
Sure.
Where are you teaching, and what do you like? What's your areas of interest right now?
Sure. So let me answer your area of interest. I'll circle back to the others. So healthcare economics, in particular, free market healthcare reform.
You got a new book about that, right?
Yes, called The Cure That Works. It's out on Amazon, The Cure That Works.
So it couldn't be more timely with the healthcare debate in the country right now.
Yeah, so my publisher, Regnery, which is good like Wiley, they're trying to position me so I'll be one of the leading talking heads about healthcare over the next couple of years, because this issue is going to come back.
Yeah, we need that, exactly.
And in the debate again. But to answer your other question, I teach at Scripps College, which is one of the 5 Claremont colleges in Claremont, California. Pomona's the most famous. What, Claremont McKenna, Pitzer, Harvey Mudd, and
Harvey
Scripps.
Mudd, Harvey Mudd's a science one.
Yeah, engineering, maybe the best undergrad engineering program in the world, actually.
Well, all those schools were, like I said, they're near where I live. And so, they have a good reputation, not just locally, but around the world.
Yeah, and so if anyone has any high school age kids out there, check them out. It might be the best place in the world to be an undergrad, because once you're into one of the colleges, you get to take classes at all 5.
Yes.
It's really superb.
Good.
Yeah.
So, tell me about the new book.
Sure.
And tell me, we talked about this a little bit like yesterday when I met you. But it was really intriguing, because I've always been of the mindset that the less government, the better in anything. I know you kind of share that, but also you're a realist in the sense that the government, in terms of healthcare, it already plays a huge role.
Sure.
So how can we kind of figure out the inefficient way that's going on now and transition that into a way that actually makes sense?
Okay, so basically you need to put people in the right environment. And I like using the metaphor, and I told you yesterday about a greenhouse, right? The government should be creating a greenhouse. It should be a libertarian greenhouse. Inside the greenhouse, you get all the benefits of capitalism, efficiency, and all this stuff. So the 2 main policy things we need, because you're asking for specifics, and I'm glad you are. Right. One is there should be price tags on everything, right?
Yes.
Right now,
transparent price tags.
Yes, anything that's covered by insurance, you go in, like I have Blue Cross from my employer, my doctor does something, and then 3 months later I get a crazy bill with made up numbers and then a line that says you pay this amount, right?
It can't even figure it out unless you have to have you have to have a PhD from Berkeley to figure that thing out.
Well, and it's random too, because the reason it takes 3 months is there's a negotiation between your doctor and the insurance company. The doctor sends in billing codes, the insurance company immediately rejects them all, tries not to pay, and then there's a 3-month negotiation to get to a price in the middle. So even the doctor, when they do your treatment, doesn't know what they're eventually going to end up paying.
Exactly.
And so no one in the system, as you said, price transparency is the correct term. No one has any ability to comparison shop. The providers can't compete with each other on price and say, I can do it for cheaper, because they don't even know what the price is going to be in 3 months, right? So that's one thing. You need price tags on everything. You also need, in terms of price tags, everyone should have to pay the same price, right? It's illegal to charge a black person more than a white person or a woman more than a man, but you and I could get the exact same treatment at the same hospital and get charged vastly different prices. That's one thing. And the other, you need to set up the insurance system so that people have enough money to pay their deductibles. Whole Foods figured this out. John Mackey's walking around.
Right, yeah, we met him this weekend.
Okay, great guy. He figured this out in 2002. You put your employers on a high deductible health plan. There's his $1,850 a year annual deductible.
Right.
And then you gift the workers the $1,850. And what you tell them is, that's your money now. Every year you work here, you'll get another $1,850, another $1,850, another $1,850. But it's your money. Any money you don't spend, it's yours to keep. It rolls over in your account.
Right.
You've now given them skin in the game.
But they can only use that money for health expenses.
Healthcare stuff.
Yes.
Which also fits into another behavioral economics thing, which we won't go into, but called mental accounting. When people have, like Dave Ramsey method with the envelopes.
Yes.
This is now the healthcare budget, and people treat that really seriously.
You got your buckets.
Yeah. And so, believe it or not, just that one simple change that Whole Foods did, and by the way, State of Indiana copied it. There's lots of other examples. Healthcare spending instantly falls 35%, but no decrements in health outcomes, because people are still going in for mammograms just as often, annual checkups. And so, but you're just giving people skin in the game. So if you do that skin in the game, where they're shopping, comparison shopping, and you also do the price tags, only one country's done them both at the same time. It's Singapore. 75% lower healthcare costs, system-wide, best healthcare outcomes in the world, because there's such intense competition. Like an open heart surgery here typically bills out in the United States for $130,000. Guess how much it is in Singapore, totally unsubsidized. If you were a medical tourist flying in,
$30,000,
$18,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And think about that. The average cost of a new car in America is now $36,000.
Yeah.
They've made open heart surgery half the cost of a new car.
Exactly. I was just going to say, like, if you, they've kind of made it like, affordable to the people, which, ironically, is what the politicians want to have. They want
Yes.
affordable health.
Yes.
You know, the Affordable Health Care Act, which is anything but.
Yes. Well, you know, anything that, if it's in the name of a bill, the opposite's going to
Yeah,
happen.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know, the Fair Trade Act. No, that's not going to happen either.
No.
So, so I'm mindful of your time now.
Oh, no,
I don't
sure.
want to.
I talk a lot.
But well, we have that in common too. So before we go,
Okay.
I want people to have access to your stuff.
Okay.
So where can they go? Where can they get your books? Where can they find out more articles about you? How can they get tapped into the Sean Flynn brain power that I know that I've just been tapped into these last few days?
Thank you. So the most interesting thing they look at is the book. So it's called The Cure That Works. It's on Amazon. There's a Kindle too if people don't like physical books.
I'll have a link as well to your
sure.
books from my site.
And then all my social media is Sean Flynn CA, as in California. Sean SeanFlynn CA, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and so that'd be LinkedIn as well. It's all. Sean Flynn
I'll put all
CA.
those links on my
right
show
on.
site too.
Thank you.
But yeah, I encourage anybody who's interested in getting like knowledge about economics and embracing it, which a lot of my audience already they like it, but it's important, even if you don't think that it's important to know about, it is important to know about. Like we say, you got to know the water which you swim.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you brought that metaphor back, because think about Andrea Cortez, right? You're living in water, there's economics, there's all this stuff that's actually there. She wants to sell you a bicycle. That's what socialism is. It's useless in the real world,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And you wouldn't know that, though, if you thought you were living on land. Oh, yeah, this bicycle's going to work great, right? But no,
riding a bike in water.
Yeah.
You need fins, not a bike.
Yeah, yes. Absolutely, or propeller, something.
Exactly. Sean, thanks so much.
No, thank you, Matt. Okay, bye-bye.